This is Community Viewpoint, a public affair program of Town Square Media.
So let's get to the phone and talk with our friend, Congressman Ryan Zinke. How are you, sir?
Great, and great to be back in Montana.
You bet.
It's so great to have you back on the show with us, Ryan. I know that yesterday the Senate voted on a highway bill, and the Congress is going to take a look when they get back after the break. I was hoping you might be able to share your thoughts on it.
Well, there's no pay for it on it, so it's a 6-year bill. It only pays for 2, and I recognize the importance of infrastructure, and I've always longed that infrastructure is an investment, not an expense. But it has to be paid for. We're at a point in a country where let's prioritize what we're doing, make sure that it's a long-term bill, 5 years, so we can have some certainty in it, and to make sure that the formula doesn't change. Because there's a lot of pressure from the east and west of this country to redo the formula, which is not an advantage of Montana. So there's a lot of emphasis on things in New York or the east or west corridor, along the coastline. But we want to make sure Montana is served too. Because we have a lot of highway and not very many people. So we're looking at it, and that's why I think we wisely extended it. There's some pay for us that we're looking at. We're looking at repatriation of dollars that are overseas. If we can get this administration to agree with export of crude and export of liquid natural gas, I think there's some revenue there long term, which will be good.
Now, Ryan, let me ask you: does it drive you crazy that in order to get one thing done that is necessary, that everybody agrees with, you have to have all this other stuff shoved in from various special interests, that you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this, because because everybody wants this done, the other folks just pile their stuff on, hoping they can just ride on the coattails of something that's good.
Well, and this is what Congress, at least the 114th Congress, the freshmen make up 20% of the House. 20%. I can tell you, I am absolutely impressed with the quality of people that came in the 114th Congress. And let me give you a couple examples. We have Martha McSally, first female combat pilot. We have Steve Russell, wrote a book about capturing Saddam Hussein, Lieutenant Colonel. There are CATCO. We have some unbelievably talented people that, like myself, is I came to Washington to fix it and not to promulgate broken policies. And we've made some progress. I mean, surprisingly so. We passed a bill that balances in 10 years. We did a Doc 6, which is the first entitlement reform in over 10 years. And so the Congress is doing what we can. I think it's going to be a rough year and a half. The Iranian deal is the one thing that keeps me up at night. And I'm going to go to Israel here in a few days and talk to the Israeli government and military friends which I've served with, and talk about from their perspective, which I'm sure I know, but I want to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Well, let me give you a chance to speak directly to President Obama, because he listens to the show every day. I know. I'm sure he does.
I'm sure because I understand anyway. He doesn't sit on an intelligence report, so maybe he does this one.
I'm sure.
I've been in the secret meetings with Jon Stewart. We roll in the same circles. My question for you is this: it's the same one President Obama has asked many times. If you don't like this deal, what would be better? There is no option, basically, is his argument, between this deal and war.
Well,
and I would like to hear your case. What do you think would make a better deal?
Okay, there are a number of options, and that's a false narrative to say, well, either we take a bad deal or go to war. Right? The reason why they're at the table in the beginning is sanctions. So why did we put sanctions on it? Because they violated the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which they signed. So, and even in the sanctions, we could have ramped up the sanctions. We're a country that if the U.S. military moves on, and Kennedy called it a quarantine, but it was a blockade. We could blockade them, but to accept a legal path for a nuclear weapon, to accept an ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile technology, in 8 years, from a country that has Hezbollah, has Hamas, is the leading advocate, leading supporter of terrorism all across the globe, and we're going to give them ICBMs. It's almost, we're giving a path, a roadmap to a nuclear arsenal. In that, 5 years, we released the boycott on, not boycott, we released the sanctions on conventional weapons.
Well, Ryan, let's say we did this. Let's say, hey, for some reason we're able to get China and Russia and France and England all back to the table, and Iran's there, and we say, hey guys, letting you trade small arms not a good idea. Giving you the option to build intercontinental ballistic missile not a good idea. We're going to take those things off the table. If you took those two elements out of the negotiations, would you be able to support it, Ryan?
All right, there's two things. One is verification. If you don't trust, you got to verify. 24 days, and it turns out there's a side deal made by the international organization, a side deal by Iran, not by the P5+1. So evidently, they supply their own soil samples. In 24 days, come on. And so the administration's response is, well, we have these super secret techniques that we'll be able to monitor everything. And one of my responses was, well, where do you start from?
We're going to send the Clintons in. They'll have information on everybody.
Well, and then when you got General Hayden, former CIA director, saying, no, we don't. No, we don't have that sophistication. And remember, in 2009, we caught them red-handed with their own facility, but we don't have that information about what exactly they made because that wasn't part of the deal. So we didn't even know where we're starting from. So this is a very bad deal. And for the administration to say, well, this is the best we could do, Iran is not our equal. Iran is not our equal. We're the United States of America. Without our leadership, this is exactly what happens. And when this president doesn't lead, every other nation looks at it and goes, you know what? Well, we're off the table too.
All right, now
because they can't do it alone.
Right. Allow me to bring something up. We had a guest in studio on the Montana World Affairs Council on the radio. Mirdad Kia is a professor at the university, a professor of history. Spent a lot of time in Iran. I believe is a native of Iran. And one thing that he brought up, and I want to get your take on it. He said the leadership, like the Ayatollah and all of his mullahs, are all in their 70s. They're aging. They have to pay people to do the hate rhetoric. And he says, but the vast majority of the people of Iran, of the majority, are under the age of 30. Are just waiting for this particular generation to die out so they can become part of the world community. So his advice is, let's wait this out. I mean, we got 5-10 years with this deal. These people will be dead just from old age. Is that something that you could possibly buy in?
More of his hope.
Well, I strongly agree that the difference between the Ayatollah regime and the Republican National Guard and the people. And I have spent time in the Middle East a lot, and I have a lot of Persian friends. And Iranians are different than Iraqis. Iranian culture is fairly sophisticated, well-educated, but there is a difference between a repressive regime that hate America, destroy America, annihilate Israel, and the general population. The problem is this regime is in charge. And this regime funds Hezbollah. This regime funds Hamas.
So is it naive to think that we just wait this out?
Well, that's a tough bet, and it's a tough bet. I think it's a dangerous bet when you're talking about nuclear weapons.
Okay,
I mean, that changes the whole scenario.
Okay,
and when you're talking about ICBMs, missiles that are capable of reaching here,
okay, Ryan,
it's a game changer.
We have a call from a listener. Let's get Catherine on. Catherine, you're on with Ryan Zinke. Go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning, Catherine.
Just a quick little question. According to an Iranian government release, and this is from what I understand, this agreement also bans any U.S. inspectors from doing any inspections. Is that correct?
Correct. The inspections are international.
Okay, but it not only that, but it actually bans the U.S. from doing any inspections at all.
Well, the inspections are conducted by the International Atomic. I can't remember the acronym, but it's a group that contains no U.S. presence. That is correct.
The
IAEA. What we're getting is that there's a side deal cut between Iran and the International Inspection Organization. So the side deal, P5+1, didn't have full purview. Kerry said in a hearing that he saw it or that he was briefed on it, but he never read it. And Congress doesn't have a copy of it yet. So, this is we're gonna say yes on a deal that we don't have a copy of. It turns out that what I understand is that Iran also supplies the soil samples. Well, what kind of a verification is that?
Not much of one. Anyway.
So I got 25 days to pee in this cup, huh? I want to give it to you. I promise it's going to be good stuff.
So in the few minutes we have left, Ryan, so are there... Go ahead. Wait, what?
We can go to the top of the hour. My question for you, Ryan, was we had a listener call in with a question, and the question was, your next election cycle, what are you going to be doing to encourage votes from Tea Party members in the state of Montana? This is from a Montana Tea Party member.
Well, I represent the entirety of Montana, and if we're going to fix this country, we all have to work together. And there's a lot about the different factions in the Republican Party I respect and like. If it's freedom, if it's making sure that we respect the Constitution, if it's making sure we return America to its greatness as it should be, I think we can all agree on that. And I'll sit down with anybody and talk about how important it is for America to be exceptional. And exceptionalism, I think we can all rally around. I had Louis Gohmert with me because I think his message needs to be heard. I don't agree with everything Louis says, but I tell you, he's a terrific guy, and I brought him to the Republican convention. But I think at this point in time in our history, it's about America first. It's not necessarily about a Republican or a Democrat or independent or Tea Party or, pick a group. It's about America, and our values are based in the Constitution. And certainly we can all respect and honor the Constitution. At least I'm hoping that's the case.
Yeah, real quick question. One of the things that's popped up on the news flow this week, this whole issue with Planned Parenthood. I know Congressman Daines is out with the bill to defund Planned Parenthood. Sorry, Senator now. Got to change these things every 5-6 years. I was wondering what your position on defunding Planned Parenthood was, Mr. Zinke.
I think we need an independent investigation immediately on it. From what I've seen, it's horrific. And so we need to get the facts quickly, yesterday. And to me, from what I've seen, there's criminal involvement, but we need to get the facts. So, and we need to get them yesterday. And I think it's outrageous that the administration is holding on information, Freedom of Information Act, or you have a gag order on freedom of speech. So it's just I think if you watch the video, I mean it is absolutely horrific.
Yeah, let's get to the phone and say good morning to Candy. Candy, you're on with Congressman Zinke. Go ahead.
Okay, since John asked my first question about Planned Parenthood,
Hi, Candy. How are you?
I'm fine. I'll go on to the question about Jade Helm that you never got back to us on, and now it's all in the public for consumption. So what is your view on Jade Helm? And I'll wait out line.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sure. Okay, Jade Helm is not a conspiracy to intern U.S. citizens. I have run, as a former SEAL commander at SEAL Team 6, I've run similar exercises. But I would have fired the public affairs officer because what they did, and where are you going to train? The first time you're going to train, hopefully isn't Baghdad or large areas. In the military bases, to train on base for such things just does not give you the true look. And the true look is buildings and people. And so, I'm a veteran. I strongly support military training. But to have, the scenario set up where Texas is enemy territory and those type of things, it was sloppy, and the military did not do a great job of looking at it and getting ahead of it and telling and being transparent and telling people what they're doing.
So it sounds to me like...
I think the public affairs officer should have been fired.
Well, it sounds to me like we have a Cool Hand Luke moment here. What we have here is failure to communicate.
Well, yeah, and it's important, but also if you stay silent and aren't transparent, then a large population of America doesn't trust our government, and
Right.
I don't trust our government a lot of times. And so when you have actions of this scale, people look at it and go, you fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, or shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I just don't trust you enough unless you give me the right information. And in this case, I don't think the military special operations was ahead of the curve as they should have been.
All right, we are about a week away from the debates. A lot of people will learn about the next presidential candidates in a week or so. Currently, there's 19 people actively running. You're not going to answer the question of who do you support, but I would like you to put out three names.
You have to like someone in that group.
Yeah, give me three names.
I was with Carly last week, and I tell you, she's phenomenal.
Carly Fiorina.
I've been with Ben Carson. Ben Carson's phenomenal.
So
I've sat down with Scott Walker, solid.
Jindal is amazing.
So of those 19, if you could pick three that you most identify with.
I tell you, Trump's going to be the only candidate, I think, in the history of America that's going to make money on an election.
Oh, by the way, he just released the news that he's going to drop his next book at the day of the debates.
Hey, you know what?
Are you shocked?
Hey, you know what? His message is resonating because America's upset. America just wants to be told the truth. And, so I think of the candidates, Kasich is good. I listened to Gilmore last night. So I think it shows the strength of the Republican Party of having this many quality candidates. So I'm excited. I think the debates are going to be marvelous.
Well, now let me ask you this, Ryan. We'll get to Charles here in a moment. How do you keep that many candidates from destroying each other and leaving nothing left for the Democratic candidate just to walk in and take over?
Trump takes all the air out of the room, except probably Walker, Bush, and Rubio, right? Because everyone's trying to get a foothold. So, I guess, but again, I think the diversity and this is the dialogue that America should have, and the Republican dialogue is, I think, much stronger than the Democrats.
It seems like a
monolithic solution.
It seems like a much bigger tent, doesn't it?
Well, that's good, and we've always said Big Tent. Big Tent is effective, and
but Big Tent is also associated with circus.
but the first on your program, I can definitively announce that I am not announcing.
we have something hardcore here.
Okay,
you heard it first.
Let's get Charles on the line. Charles, thanks for holding your own with Congressman Zinke. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Hey, Charles, how you doing?
Fantastic. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Any day in Montana is better than the best day in D.C.
What's up?
Well, I can understand that. I've been there. My biggest concern is our borders.
Yep.
Now, I am not happy with the Republican Party and definitely not the Democrat Party. But these borders, these open borders that they have allowed to happen is one of the biggest security hazards in our country. We don't know who or what's in there. We're getting criminal elements that are coming through. What are you going to do to support this, closing of these borders?
Okay,
and I agree. It hasn't been this administration all of President Obama's fault, although he has been lawless in his following the law. But you're right. This has been a long time coming. And our southern border is different than our northern border. Our southern border is now a nexus between an immigration issue and national security. I mean, if kids can come across our border, so can ISIS and Al-Qaeda and weapons of mass destruction. That's clear. The bill we passed did provide more money on it, and I'm an advocate for a fence. And we're a great country that built the Panama Canal in the 19th century. I mean, we're up for a fence in the 21st. So, I think a fence, in my experience when I was stationed in San Diego, that fence was effective. And I do think we need a fence, but we also need an immigration policy that makes sense. And our policy as a country is nonsensical. It promotes people cheating. And if you do things right, wait in line, I think there has to be a reward to follow the law. And right now it's almost a disincentive to follow the law because other people are passing you that just come across.
Mr. Zinke, thanks so much for being with us, and thanks for being willing to talk and take questions from our listeners. It's much appreciated and something we don't always get from our senators and congressmen.
This has been Community Viewpoint, a public affair program of Town Square Media.